y'all don't mind, I'm taking that. I'm much better when I move. I'm a moving target. So no, thank y'all for having us, and I can tell y'all it's an honor to be here. I drove in today from Gonzales, and on the drive here, I can tell you, looking at the numbers y'all put up to help those in need out there is really, really, I haven't been down to that. We have, and I can tell you, when I went, it's heartbreaking. My area went through the 2016 flood, and I can tell you, when you see people out of their homes and they have no homes left, these people, some of them, there's stilts and pilings there. There's no house anymore. They're living in tents. They don't want to leave. They're resilient. They want to stay there. They want to fix their home, and they want to stay home, and I don't blame them. But thank y'all for doing that, first of all. Second of all, I'll tell you about a Constitutional Amendment number 1. Constitutional Amendment number 1 is something that we're one of 2 states in the whole country that doesn't have a simplified tax collecting portal or system. Right now, if you're a small business owner and you sell product in multiple parishes, you have to remit to 56 different remittals, right, to each one. We looked at this several times. Brought the bill up to fix it. Very seldom made it out of committee. Last year, we offered up a bill. I put it in my name, and we couldn't get the groups that were over tax collection, Sheriff's Association, School Board Association, municipalities, parishes. We couldn't get them to the table to have a conversation. So we put the bill in Chairman Bishop's committee. We got the bill out, got it to the floor, and I think once those groups saw this bill moving, they wanted to come to the table. They wanted to have a little conversation about it, and I'm glad, and that was our intention. What we did after that was we formed a task force group that came together of business owners, tax collectors, municipalities, Sheriff's Association, everybody was at the table. And I told them, I said, look, if we can get this out of this task force and be successful on getting a bill for this year done, I said, it's gonna be good. And the vote's probably gonna be close. After 30 days of doing that, Representative Boyer was on that committee, helping get the information. After 30 days of them talking, arguing, doing the things that they needed to do to solve this problem, it came up to a vote, and it came out unanimous. Not one person said that we shouldn't move forward. That was huge. So then what we done, we went and we put together all the stakeholders to the table there on your sheet that we have passed out, the little handout. You see the sheriffs, the municipalities, the governor's office, the House, everybody that was involved. And we came up with what we passed this year. What we passed was a bill that will help us get to the next step to be able to put all the rules. I call it building the car. We have the blueprints, now we just have to build a car. We have it ready. This has to pass first. What this is going to do is, right now, we, as a state, we struggle on collecting out-of-state internet sales tax. The reason I know this, Amazon lives in my driveway because my wife spends way too much money on Amazon. But, and to that, I've looked at her receipts, and sometimes Amazon will charge us a sales tax. Sometimes they will charge us no sales tax. Sometimes they will charge just the state sales tax. What's happening though in the majority of the areas on that is Amazon is not paying the local sales tax that they should be because it's too complicated to remit that. So what this will do is it will create a portal that will allow all of these millions of internet stores and Amazons and Googles and you pick it, Walmart, Wayfair, all of them, to go in and collect that sales tax and remit it back to one remittal. just one. That portal will then distribute it to each parish or municipality or whatever it is that it needs to go to. That's gonna simplify the system tremendously. Here's what really gets to me, and you think about it, all of us in here as taxpayers and business owners, we do a lot of work, we do a lot of paperwork. If you like me, you don't like doing paperwork. I have a small business, I have to do those paperworks. I have a friend of mine that owns a Supercuts and a sports clips, and he has to do it. He has some in Mississippi, some here in Louisiana. And he tells me the story that, you know, when his wife does the paperwork, she does Mississippi, she's done in 15 minutes. They get up, they leave, they all go to dinner, take the kids to the zoo, see the movie, whatever it is. When he does Louisiana's, the wife says, you leave, don't come back until later tonight. Because it's so frustrating to get it done, it's complicated. That's a huge benefit in local businesses that we have here right now. I know I have to remit back to several parishes, and it is complicated, it is time consuming, and it gives us, it takes away family time. The other thing is Mississippi had something similar to this, where theirs was complicated, not quite as bad as ours. And the Speaker of the House over there, Speaker Gunn, they went in and they did their tax reform that they done, and they were successful, they passed it. Last year was their first year of a full remittance back on what they had collected. They ended up with a number of $400 million extra that they had been missing out on. It's a lot of money. A lot of money. Here's the real kicker that kicked it in for me and said, we definitely have to do something. One is, Mississippi has 1 million less people than us. 1 million less taxpayers. Mississippi has a flat tax of 7% across the board. Ours, 8.5 to 12.5 across the board. If they're missing, if they gained a 400 million extra, imagine what we're missing. That's a lot. We have 1 million more people than them. We have a higher tax. We should be collecting a lot more than what we're collecting. So basically all this does, it simplifies the tax remittal. It helps us collect taxes that we have been paying, but we haven't been getting back all of it. Some of those Amazon places, some of those Wayfair places have chose just not to pay it. The big question that we hear across the board when people ask about this or they hear about it in their areas, and they say, well, we hear that this is the state's gonna take our money and they're gonna keep it and we're not gonna get it back. Locals will be without it, right? First of all, your internet sales tax is collected right now by the state. The state already collects that money, the little pieces that it does. It doesn't collect it all, but the little pieces. We remit it back. This reverses that. This allows the locals to be in charge and allows them to distribute and collect that tax. Second, we heard, oh, it's gonna cost more. It's gonna go up, it's gonna cost us more to collect those taxes. Actually, it's gonna go down. Right now with the 4 that we have underneath the umbrella, it'll all go to 1, and each one of those right now collect a percentage of whatever they collect. That will go away, and you'll only have 1%, which will be much lower than what you're paying on all 4. The other was, it's gonna reduce jobs. It's gonna take jobs away. It doesn't take jobs away. Actually, it makes their jobs much easier, and it allows things to be done much faster. It doesn't decrease jobs. It actually, when they put the bill together, it's gonna create a few jobs. It really is, especially on the local levels. That's the 3 biggest things that we get pushback on. This is something that Louisiana's been needing to do. I couldn't be more proud of my legislature that they took it upon themselves, Republicans and Democrats, to come together, look at a situation that we've been having, and shame on us for years past not being able to push it through, but we did. These guys worked their tails off to help me get this done. And I talked to staff the other day just to show you, for instance, the difference in the passion that we have now in the House to get things done, and the Senate, asked staff the other day, I said, any other constitutional amendment that you can remember in your 40 years of working here, do you remember legislators traveling the state, educating people on what the amendments do? And she told me, absolutely not one time. And I can tell you, the House members, myself, have traveled all the way to Shreveport, Ruston, all the way down, and I'm leaving here to go to New Orleans and meet with the New Orleans Business Council and explain to them. They've already looked at it, they're gonna endorse it themselves. It's huge for everybody. So I would ask that come November the 14th, 13th, that you would look at it and seriously consider voting yes on this amendment to help make our state better. Thank y'all so much for having me.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And the Speaker does have to get going right after the meeting, so if y'all see him exit, it's not because he doesn't love to see all your smiling faces. He just got to get to that New Orleans Business Council. So just to add another thing that the Speaker was talking about on the streamlining of the sales tax dollars, Louisiana is ranked 49th out of 50th with regards to our sales tax collection system. Part of it is our complex differences between our local and state sales taxes. The other part is the collection process. And Constitutional Amendment number 1 is going to be what fixes half of that issue. They give Louisiana, when we're creating these constitutional amendments and coming up with this tax reform, we consulted with national tax groups, the Council on State Taxation out of Washington, D.C., and the Tax Foundation are the two major groups. Louisiana, since they started rating states, Louisiana has been in the bottom 10 with regards to business tax friendliness since they began their rating system. If we pass these two amendments, for the first time, they have confirmed after looking at their numbers that we will be out of the bottom 10 and in the right direction. This doesn't fix everything, but this puts the boat in the right direction to where we can continue to make improvements. The Speaker talked about Constitutional Amendment number 1, which all deals with sales tax collection. So if you're a business owner, and y'all are real estate agents, I guess y'all do with some sales tax issues. But if you're a small business owner, remitting sales tax, Constitutional Amendment number 1 is big for you. Constitutional Amendment number 2 deals with income tax. So sales tax is number 1, income tax on the second side of it. And essentially it does two main things when you read it on the ballot. It removes the mandatory deduction of your federal income tax payments from your state income tax calculation. So it removes that mandatory deduction. And then what it also does is it removes the 3 tax brackets, which are currently in Louisiana, a 2%, a 4%, and a 6% bracket. It removes them from the Constitution completely. And all it does, it says Louisiana taxpayers will no longer pay more than a 4.75% rate. So if we want to increase taxes above 4.75%, we'll have to go into the Constitution. So it doesn't set the rates, it just says it cannot be more than. Okay? So after passed, there are 3 bills that we passed in the legislative session that come into play. That's the key part of the legislation. Number 1, the first one is regarding personal income taxes. It sets the new rates at 1.75%, 2.75%, and the maximum rate is going to be at 4.25%. Okay, so that's the big kicker. All right, can't go higher than 4.75, but we're setting the maximum rate at 4.25%. If we pass this, Louisiana will have the lowest income tax, the lowest high bracket in all the southern states. It will be the 3rd lowest in the nation. This is something we can use for economic development purposes. There are 8 states that don't have any income tax whatsoever. But of those that charge an income tax, we'll have the 3rd lowest in the entire country. This is huge. Yes, well, how do you pay for it? Because everything is revenue neutral. It's from the loss of the federal income tax deduction that I mentioned to y'all earlier. So to the state, there's no change. To 1.6 million Louisianans, we're going to be a lower income tax. So just kind of let that sink in, that we'll end up being the top in the South, number 3 in the nation with regards to personal income tax brackets. 3 legs to the stool. The first one is income tax. The second one is corporate income tax. Right now, we have 5 brackets in Louisiana for C corporations. You have a 4, a 5, a 6, a 7, and an 8% bracket. We're going to move that down to 3 brackets. Be a 3.5% bracket, a 5.5% bracket, and a 7.5% bracket. So the first leg of the stool reduces personal income taxes. Second leg of the stool reduces corporate income taxes. The third leg to the stool is with regards to franchise tax. Louisiana has a franchise tax, and if any of you are not familiar with what that is essentially a tax on the capital value of your business. So it's kind of like an entry fee just to do business in Louisiana. Most states don't have a franchise tax. Louisiana is an outlier. I think you have 6 or 7 states in the whole country that have one. Right now, if you have a capital value, if you're paying franchise tax, you're taxed at $3 per $1,000 in capital value of your business. So what we're doing is we're completely eliminating it for all the small businesses. So if you have less than $300,000 in capital value, you're going to pay no franchise tax. For everyone over $300,000, we're lowering it from $3 per $1,000 in value to 2.75%. Excuse me, $2.75 per $1,000, which is huge because it's finally piercing that veil into the franchise tax, completely eliminating for the small businesses, which is 85% of the businesses in Louisiana that are currently paying it, will no longer pay a franchise tax. Now, if this amendment doesn't pass, this 3-legged stool we're talking about, Louisiana doesn't have a seat at the table. It's extremely important that we get voters out there. Representative Bishop talked about the low turnout that we're going to see on November 13th. Early vote begins on October 30th. We're going to need everybody to spread the word to get both of these amendments passed. You got an election going to be taking place in Lake Charles. You got an election taking place in New Orleans. But otherwise, around the state, you don't have many local elections. So those are going to be probably the 2 bigger turnout areas. We need the rest of Louisiana, which is the majority of Louisiana, to also turn out and vote. So with that said, we can take any questions if y'all have time or however y'all want to handle it.
Does anybody have any questions they'd like to ask while the state legislators are here on the constitutional amendments?
All right, so one last part. I know sometimes it's clear whether you should vote yes or no on these. It's a yes on number 1 and number 2.
And truly, one of the most other important things is, please tell your friends, tell coworkers, tell people that didn't hear this, that because it has to be a grassroots campaign and getting people out. You'll see us, we're gonna start running TV ads. We're gonna start running radio ads. We're gonna do mailers. We're gonna push all of this out in the next couple weeks. So please make sure that everybody knows 1 and 2 are very important for the state. And if you really think about it, this is the first step. And the next session that we go into, the next fiscal session, the next step, there's always several steps to a piece of legislation. This is the beginning of absolutely abolishing personal state income tax. Because we need to be like other 12 states that don't have a personal income tax. So we have to start here to get that. So, please, appreciate your time. Please make sure you get it right.
Can I ask a question? Maybe remind us on a constitutional amendment, it's just not a majority vote. Yes, it has to be, what percentage?
It's a majority.
It's a
Majority vote. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
On your second bullet point, can you clarify, it says removes current individual income tax brackets in the state constitution, but allows the legislature to set them?
Correct. So I'm glad you brought that up because I normally talk about it. That's also another beautiful part of the legislation. So right now, I tell you, we have the 3 brackets. We're gonna have 3 more brackets. If we want to reduce rates further in Louisiana, we now can do it with a simple majority of the legislation. So if we think that 4.25% is too high, and we want to reduce it to 3.75%, we don't have to go back into the Constitution Today, we have to go back into the Constitution, so we can simply lower them that way. If we want to increase them, it takes, to your question, it takes a 2/3 vote of the legislature to increase them, but it can't go higher than 4.75, and the highest rate right now is 6%. So, I'm glad you asked the question, yes, sir. All right.
You stated a moment ago, if we don't do this, then we'll not have a seat at the table. What table?
The economic development table. We're listening to our economic development folks. We're trying to bring businesses to Louisiana, and these ratings are destroyed as when businesses are looking to relocate to Louisiana. Give you an example let's just use on the sale. We can use an example on the income tax side. Texas, you aren't allowed to deduct your federal income taxes because they don't have an income tax, but they don't allow you to deduct it from their property taxes either. Same thing from Florida. So when you look at our tax burden as Louisiana residents and businesses, we're about middle of the pack, okay? But our burden of being taxed is at the very bottom. It's the most complex system. And it's a lot of the exemptions that other states don't have. They see other businesses see high rates. They don't see all the other different exemptions. So our goal is to simplify those things. So when other businesses are looking to come to Louisiana, they see a lower tax-based system. We're basically lowering the rates and broadening the base is another way to say it. Ma'am, you have a question?
I know the elections in New Orleans, I think have been pushed back, so are we all voting on this all on the same?
Yes, ma'am. November 13th is the election day. Early voting, October 30th for everyone. Yes, ma'am.
What can we do to have consistent sales tax in all the parishes?
So that's going to be the next fight we take on. So you have a group of 40-something new legislators that just came in. I'm one of the stewards, a veteran. I'm new, and the buzz amongst the 40-something is that we need to get this streamlined commission created. The next step is to start working on some parity between the parishes and the state. And that is, if you think this is going to be a battle, that'll be a huge battle. But it does make us an outlier. And if I'm submitting sales taxes, if I'm a small business in all 64 parishes, the speaker mentioned we got 50-something different returns that we have to file. In each of those parishes, you also have multiple taxing jurisdictions. You have multiple, if I just took Lafayette Parish, the amount of different tax rates, sales tax rates that you pay just in Lafayette Parish, that's another big issue on why we're ranked 49th out of 50th, but this doesn't solve that. That's going to be the next issue we work on. There was another question back there, I think.
We got time for one more.
Yes, ma'am, in the pink.
My question is actually for our president. Is LR gonna take an official position on this so that way we can, prevent that?
She's asking if LR's going to take a position.
Certainly, it's something that the board of directors can obviously bring up at that meeting, even this afternoon, and decide to take a position on that, absolutely. That's why we brought you this information to town hall, so everybody be aware of it.
Thank y'all.